Hi, welcome in video number 2 from the series of video about CAFT cost analysis and forecasting technique. I'm Said Soliman, a business process and ERP consultant. In this video, I will talk about the several types of tender documents, like a general condition, a particular condition, a specification, drawings, and schedules. And what's the type of information we can get from such document to support the project price analysis. So let's start our class. First, let's get a brief about the definition of tender document in construction industry. The tender documents are the basis of the contractor's offer to construct the work. Actually, they are employer's means of clarifying the design of the project and what are the requirements for the work to be carried out. This informs the contractor about the scope and detail of the project, the condition under which the work will be executed, and they identify the rights and obligations of the various participants under the proposed contract. So, the tender document enables contractors to price the work requirement and submit an offer which, if accepted by the employer, becomes a binding contract. And definitely, some of the tender documents will become contract documents. Now let's go through the several types of tender documents and clarify what's the description and function of each document and what type of information we can extract for them to support our price analysis. First, the general condition. General condition is the normal and the standard methods prescribed of how the owner, contractors, and architect are to interact with each other during the course of construction, which include the conditions and the procedures of all transactions that take place between the contracting parties during the implementation period of the project until its final delivery to the client. And these transactions are listed in the form of numbered and sequential clauses, like document submittals, time schedule, invoice statement, variation orders, and so on, which are binding on all contracting parts. Actually, the general condition could be presented in several models, but one of the most common models of the general condition is included in the FEDEC contract. What's FEDEC? The term FEDEC stands for the International Federation of Consulting Engineers, and as a brief about the organization, it was established in 1913 in Geneva and aimed of producing a standard for contracts for the construction and the engineering industry. The first edition was published in August 1957. Of course, it's not a condition that the project be implemented in accordance with the term of the FEDEC contract, and it may follow other conditions agreed upon between all parts. But, and as mentioned before, the FEDEC contract is the most common contract condition in the market. And this figure clarifies part from the classification of the clauses of the general condition of contracting as shown in FEDEC contract, which clarify the conditions and the procedures of all transactions that take place between the contracting parts, and how these transactions are listed in the form of sequential main clauses and related subclauses, when each subclause related to specific procedure, as shown in the subclause 8.3 from the time schedule preparation and its description. Now let's talk about the information we can get from the general condition and how come such information support the cost estimation analysis. Here are few expenses commonly placed in the general condition category. First, administration requirements, which reflect all expenses related to tasks such as arrangement of transportation, accommodation, staff recruitment, or financial issues, and so on. Second is project equipment and utilities. This category contains expenses such as fencing, temporary lighting, and site office utilities. Third is permits. Permits fees include any cost incurred during the process of receiving the legal authorization required for work commence. Fund and loan interest. When construction companies take on loans to cover project costs, especially in the projects that classified as EPC plus F, and if here refer to the fund. The associated interest will typically be included among general condition. Taxes. It means many taxable events typically occur during large-scale construction project. These taxes and many fees associated with handling them fall under general condition too. Project management requirement. Construction project management is a term broadly describing a whole laundry list of activities that support work on the job site, like supervision, type management, safety, quality, control management, and so on. Public relation requirement. Public-facing construction company often incur costs associated with maintaining their reputations and other advertising-related concerns. These expenses meet the criteria of general condition too. Accommodation and Combination. Often, construction projects require workers to relocate or even just travel long distance to the job site. This category cover expenses related to the travel, including hotel booking, compensation for gas and air travel, and all subjects like that. Site setup, which is called mobilization. Costs in this category cover the initial setup of construction project along with the cleanup that happens once everything is complete. As noticed, general condition describe expenses that support a project without directly relating to job site activities, like pouring concrete or mounting steel beams, and often referred to these expenses as indirect cost. The second document, particular conditions, which means is the document which sets out the additional terms and conditions, clarifications, and amendment to general condition, or to any other document included in the contract that have been agreed by the parties in writing in respect of the contract. And to understand the difference between general condition and particular condition, let's get examples for subclause amended in general condition and issued in particular conditions. For example, subclause 1.3 from general condition, which is called communications. The subclause clarify the process and the methods of communications between the contract parts, and not concerned about the address, phone number, or email that will be used throughout the such communication. And because the such data is specific for the project only, so to incorporate such information in the contract, this subclause can be modified in the particular condition to indicate the right communications means and clarify the information about such communications. As observed, the particular condition presents the same nature of information that was explained in the general condition. Accordingly, the particular condition will have the same manner of impact on the estimation analysis process as general condition, and already dealing with the same component which explained previously. The next document from the list of tender document is specification. Construction specifications, which is also called specs, that needs to be completed in a construction project. These details include information about material included in the activities, the scope of work, installation process, and quality of work. Before going through the information we can get from the specification and how come such information supports the cost estimation analysis, let's first get a brief about the types of specification and the structure of the most common specs in the market. Actually, there are a classification of the specs to ensure that construction specification communicate project need efficiently. This classification consists of three types of construction specification that help detail the workflow. And these three types of construction specification are performance specs, proprietary specs, and prescriptive specs. The first type is performance specs, which discuss the operational requirement of a project in details what the final installed product has to be capable of doing. In this phase, the owner or general contractor doesn't give a subcontractor a detailed specs about how to finish the job, but instead they give contractors the details on how the final product has to work in this phase. For example, The contractor is required to make a pump that pumps 300 gallons per minute. There are no direction on how to make the pumping system to go that fast. So it's up to the contractor to figure it out. And also include the testing to make sure a project meets all of its operational requirements. The second type is proprietary specs, which used when you need to use single type of product for any kind of installation. And this is the least common of the three types of construction specification actually, but it's for the job involving existing requirement and already completed installations. When the owner or client want to be consistent with their material or just to prefer a specific type of material. Finally, and the most common type is the prescriptive specs, which focus on the details for the types of material used and the installation of said material. It gives a better image of what the final product will look like compared to other specs types. And the structure of prescriptive specs can be broken into three parts. First is general, second is product, third is execution. To understand the three parts, let's get example from the section of concrete at the such specs as follows. General part consists of information such as national quality assurance, submittals, product handling, and keeping quality control sure. While the product phase will describe the different product necessary for each task as well as the individual performance level of each product. And the execution phase will go over how to prepare materials and go through with installing them, and also involves testing the quality of the material and checking if they were installed correctly. Now, and after getting the brief about the structure of the most common specs in the construction industry, especially the prescriptive specs, let's talk about the information we can get from the specification and how come such information supports the cost estimation analysis. Specifications describes expenses that support the direct execution of job site activities like pouring concrete or mounting steel beams, excavation works, and so on. So we can extract the following information which support our analysis from the specs. First, the type of material used for implementation. We can get their properties and standard quantities for the execution of the activity unit. Second, the method of execution, which clarifies the condition to be followed upon implementation, which give us a clear image about the required manpower for execution. Finally, the method of measuring the work executed from the activity and the quality control procedure and the requirements that will be followed to handling over the activities. Finally, it's observed that the specification regardless its type is considered a very important and essential source to estimate the direct cost for the project items and should be read carefully before starting the project cost estimation, especially as the direct cost represent approximately 60% from the total project cost. The next document from the tender document is drawings. Tender drawings means drawings prepared by the consulting engineer in sufficient detail to enable this person tendering and to submit competitive tenders for the execution of the work. They identify every aspect of the construction process. They demonstrate how the building is put together, stating every material used and the method of construction. Okay, now let's get a view about the component of tender drawings. The drawings at tendering stage will vary depending on the size and nature of project, but most instances the final set of tender drawings will consist of the following information. First, general arrangement. They lay out the general scope of the work, including a site plan with the general condition of the work site and the plans that show fire protections and accessibility and something like that. Second is builder works drawings. Builder works drawings like demolition plan, which shows the current state of the structure and indicate what must be demolished as a part from the construction project. or the structure engineer's drawings that show the structure schematic of the building, including concrete footing, wall-to-roof connections, joist layout, and any special engineered pieces in the building's frame. And also floor plans that show an aerial view of each level of the building, and they include building dimensions, interior walls, exterior walls, and relevant fixtures. Third is finishing plan and schedules. Finishing plans show what material will be laid atop the core structure. They include a reflected ceiling plan, which shows the ceiling as viewed from the floor, including any lighting fixtures. This plan also shows the location of power outlets and finishing drawings, almost attached with reference to what's known as finishing schedule, that refer to list or spreadsheets of certain materials. For example, the set features of door schedules that showing all the doors that appear on the drawings. The next is sections and elevations. Section and elevations drawing are architecture drawings that show cross sections of building, also called sections drawing. They show ceiling heights, wall constructions, foundations plan, and the framing plan. Next is detailed drawing. Like interior elevations that give more detailed variations, these elevations might show furniture, light switches, and wall finish type. Finally, service drawing, like mechanical drawings which show mechanical system in the building, like HVAC system which control heating and air condition and is required in most new homes and office building, and also electrical drawings which show detailed information about buildings electrical plan, including power circuits or light current systems like public addresses, TV systems, MTV, and so on. Now, how the tender drawing supports the process of cost estimation? Actually, the tender drawings are the main source of activities quantity. So the tender drawings consider one of the main source of direct cost analysis, as the direct cost is the summation of the cost rate for the activities unit measure multiplied by the quantity of each activity. Additionally, and to get the more accurate information from the tender drawings, it's important to read and understand the drawings and the specification together, because the tender drawings and the specification sets framework to ensure everything is clearly defined and in full matching with all building regulations requirements. The last document from the tender document is schedules. In the construction industry, the word schedules refer to lists or spreadsheets of certain information, and the schedules almost include the following data: bill of quantities, a preferred supplier list, time schedules. Now let's clarify respectively the information included in such schedules. First, bill of quantities. A bill of quantity, which is called also BOQ, consists of a list of material and service required to perform a project and the approximate quantities of each one, and is often prepared by the engineer or architect after project design is complete. What's the structure and format of the bill of quantities? Bill of quantities is prepared by breaking the work down into items that can be quantified or measured. When this list of work items includes a short description, the quantity, and the unit of measure. This breakdown is often based on standard work breakdown structure like master format codes, which are issued by the CSI Institute as example. And in our estimation analysis process, the direct cost analyzed for each item in the PQ. Second schedule is preferred supplier list. A preferred supplier list is a list of organizations preferred by a client to undertake certain works, suppliers, or service. So, this list considers a reference of direct cost analysis, as it presents the source of material supply or service are executed by subcontractors. Such lists almost attached with the tender documents, and the contractors are restricted by the organization named in the list as a supplier for the project's material or service. Last schedule is tender time schedule. Tender time schedule prepared by the contractor to the client in the very beginning stage of the project, even before the project awarded to the contractor, and usually it's a summary schedule clarifying how the contractor intended to execute the project, sequence, and duration. This time schedule doesn't contain a lot of details and issued as a part of the tender documents for future reference. But in some projects, the owner may require the tender schedule to be in detailed manner to contain the budget cost of the project, which creates the project cash flow. And could also contain the manpower as well, which creates manpower histogram. Mainly the time schedule template contains two main sections, bar chart and activity list. And there are some common methods for creating a project schedule, like critical path method, which is called also CPM, which show all various activities and their dependencies on one another. And line of balance, which is called also LOB. It's considered linear scheduling method, which is ideal for repetitive construction project. So, how the tender time schedule supports the estimation process? Actually, the major area supported by the time schedule in the estimation process is the indirect cost, especially for the project supervision team estimated cost, as their cost depends on the number and the expected time of their involvement to the project, which could be extracted clearly from the time schedule by knowing the start and the finish of the related tasks for them. Finally, many, if not most, of the financial problems in project construction originate in inadequate or unclear tender documents, which lead to disputes between employers and contractors over what's included in the price for the work. So it's important that the estimator have a clear understanding of the nature and purpose of the various documents used for tendering. Thank you, and hope to see you in my next video from the series of videos about CAFT, cost analysis and forecasting technique.